Imagine you could go back in time, way back, before the wheel, before agriculture, before language as we know it. And you could watch our earliest ancestors. They had no cities, no metal, no written words. They had only their hands and rocks. And one day, one of them picked up a rock and smashed something with it. That moment, almost impossible to fathom in its age, was the birth of the first real tool. And from that single, simple action, human civilization as we know it began. We're talking about the hammer, the king of tools. And its story isn't just about hitting things. It's the story of humanity itself. Because the hammer didn't just build our world, it built us. Let's start with a number that will make your head spin. 3.3 million years ago. That's when the first stone tools appear in the archaeological record. Not fancy tools, just rocks that had been deliberately flaked and shaped to have a sharp edge. But here's the thing. Among those ancient stones, archaeologists have found something else. These aren't just ordinary river rocks. They are humanity's oldest tools, recognized by these distinct impact marks. These hammerstones are the oldest known tools. To craft a tool, early humans used rocks that were used to strike other rocks. Rocks that were used to break bones for marrow. Rocks that were used to smash and crush and shape the world around our ancestors. Here's what that means. Before we had knives, before we had axes, before we had spears, before we had fire, we had hammers. The hammer is arguably the oldest tool for which definitive evidence exists. It predates almost everything we think of as human technology. And it remained unchanged in its most basic form for millions of years. Imagine that. You're an early hominid, living in a world of predators, hunger, and constant danger. And all you have is your intelligence. And whatever you can find. You find a riverbed full of smooth stones, waiting to be discovered. You pick one up. It fits perfectly in your hand. And you realize something revolutionary. If you hit things with this, they break. They break. You hit a nut. It cracks open. Food. You hit a bone. It shatters. Marrow. You hit a rock against another rock. One of them flakes off in a sharp piece, a cutting edge, the first knife, born from a hammer. This was the beginning, the moment when we stopped being just another primate on the savannah and started becoming something else entirely. For hundreds of thousands of years, the hammer was just a rock, a simple, handheld stone. Simple, but powerful. The first major technological leap came about 30,000 years ago, during the Paleolithic era. Someone, somewhere, had an idea that changed everything. What if you attached the stone to a stick? Suddenly, you weren't just holding a rock. You had leverage. You had power. You could swing the head with far more force than your arm alone could generate. The force of the hammer wasn't just the weight of the head anymore. It was the speed of the swing. You could now deliver blows that were impossible before. The hafted hammer was born. And the world shifted. You could break bigger bones. You could shape wood. You could split logs. You could drive stakes into the ground. You could build shelters. You could make better tools. The handle was a major technological advance. But it came with a problem that persists to this day. How do you keep the head attached? Those early lashings of sinew and leather were surprisingly strong. But they had limits. Swing too hard, and the head would fly off. Hit something too solid, and the binding would snap. But for thousands of years, this was the state of the art. A rock tied to a stick.